This panel that No Jumper had a couple of weeks ago is pissing a lot of people off. The critiques of the panel range from the title, Kings of Hip Hop Media. People have a problem with, I guess, them calling themselves the King of Hip Hop Media from the discussions that was had on the panel.
And I was like, what the is this?
The latest group of creators who offered up their critique of this panel is FD Signifier Olay on the Olay and Friends podcast, and AJ is also there too, Potty Mouth, and the lady in the middle, don't know her name, but she's dope too. Now, I'm covering this because they at least cared enough to articulate themselves beyond the point of he's white and he can't speak on this. FD Signifier kicked off the HR meeting of hip hop media by rattling off a couple of their violations. One of the first violation being they just looked corny sitting on the podcast.
It's funny though. So at sometime last week, clearly they called them the Culture Vultures United. It was Vlad, Trap Lord Ross, Adam 22, Academics, Whack 100. It was like the worst. It's the most corrupting, worst hip hop people in the world that are ruining the entire culture.
AJ, that's your homies, right? AJ, that's your mans, right?
Which one?
I with Adam.
That is his man, I heard.
Adam. But this is the thing. When I saw that episode, I was like, these never need to get in a room again. They look so lame. Like, just look cool. DJ Vlad over there high out of his mind. Like, he was damn near asleep. And then Whack 100 is getting mad because Academics is like, well, you kind of offering all these people up to the police. Then he gets mad for getting called out for the things that we always see Whack 100 doing. It's like...
Yeah, that's just hate. But I do see the picture they're talking about, man. I think Vlad is like on the couch like... So I do understand it, all right? I do understand. Now, they do get into voyeurism and being nosy, and I do disagree with their initial points on voyeurism.
There's nosy, then there's voyeurism. Like, nosy is what's happening outside. Oh, shit happening outside my door.
Looking outside.
Voyeurism is I'm peeking through your door and listening on your wall. Like, that's a different level. And it's been... Versus this Trap Lord Ross is he been doing this for like 6-7 years.
Yeah.
For him to have just moved here, and I wish I knew what city he was in.
There's a stigma when it comes to voyeurism. Even when I hear FD Signifier speak on it, he's framing it as if it's inherently exploitative and problematic. Now, there may be some forms of voyeurism that creates a spectacle out of Black culture and may perpetuate a legacy of, let's say, racial appropriation across the lines. Maybe, but that's not always the case. And to me, that's like an oversimplification of things. Because when I think about voyeurism, I think about curiosity and fascination. There's a reason why hip hop is a global thing. There's a reason why hip hop has expanded globally. And it has expanded globally due to hip hop own's ability for others to resonate with it.
They took Beans out the slums of South Philly. Don't. Okay, cool.
You from the pig? Yeah, from the pig.
Okay, they took Beans out of South Philly and tried to put him in there with Kanye and Chris and Neef and all these other medium street dudes. And Beans couldn't manage, and he was too reckless because he was still carrying that real street like mentality into the studio and into hip hop media and all that nonsense. And they eventually pushed him out because of that. And that happened to a lot of street rappers over the course of like the first 20, 30 years of hip hop. But now the media comes to the streets to see what these dudes are doing. And they doing exactly what they've always been doing. We're not talking about a new thing of young dudes getting killed in the streets, unfortunately. It's just that now they have cameras to document it. They get to tell on themselves and whoever else that did it. And it helps speed up the cycle of retaliation, which means people like Trap Lord Ross can sit in the background being like, oh, and this happened on this corner, and then this happened in this corner. And I wish I could do a British accent.
But it pays so well now. It pays so well now.
And it pays well. And they not getting any of the money off that either.
My question for FD would be, is there a way for white people to engage with hip hop that you wouldn't have a problem with? Because right now it feels like any white person engaging with anything Black culture, I have a problem with. And I feel like his argument is people like Trap Lord Ross and others engaging with hip hop commodifies Black culture, which I don't know why he would have a problem with commodifying Black culture. Bro, there's a reason why this little thing that started in the Bronx, in the black and brown community of the Bronx, the culture, the style, how they dress, how they talk, the slang, the beats, the words. Like, for God's sakes, how many videos have you seen on TikTok of somebody in Japan dressing, acting, talking, and dancing like they from the Bronx? Or somebody in Portugal dressing, acting, talking like they from Chicago and A Chief Keef? So if we have accepted and we're even proud that culture, hip hop is our biggest export, hip hop is our greatest asset, then how are you mad at voyeurism? Right? It wouldn't be our biggest export. It wouldn't be our greatest asset. It wouldn't be a global expansion if we were against voyeurism. It just don't make sense. This little thing that started in the Bronx wouldn't be in Portugal without voyeurism. So that's what I don't understand. Now we can talk about, what is exploitative, what is not okay, what makes a spectacle out of black culture. That conversation we can have, but shaming anybody for, I guess, being fascinated enough to peep through the hole of hip hop's door, I don't know. I don't agree. But I do respect the point though.
But it pays so well now.
He said what?
Well. It pays so well now.
And it pays well. And they not getting any of the money off that either.
They don't get the money off the Trapler Ross video, but they do get the money and the residual from the promotion and the attention that they parlay into a rap career.
Right. So it incentivizes the fuckery.
Yeah.
But the thing I think that strikes me about like Trapler Ross and some of these people is like, okay, let's say like it's one thing to just document something, or you think that like people find this entertaining, which I think is problematic for a number of different reasons in and of itself. But let's say like there's that. Trapler Ross is advancing an argument. Like I said, when I watched some Trapler Ross, it was because my friend hit me up to tell me I was in one of his videos, and he was talking about New York, and it was like he was talking about it for the purposes of like when I cut it off was when I realized he was like, oh, this woman, challenged the mayor about, his rhetoric on crime, but she's wrong. Essentially, New York City is this crime. Right. That's what I'm going to answer. New York is, in fact, this criminal place based on, and I'm like, you're saying that based on, I guess, where you feel like you insert, you have the ability to comment on the state of the criminal system in New York City, or like New York City, like political scene. Because think about that. He's politicizing something, because where else would I come in? You know what I mean? Like, why am I in this video?
I didn't watch the Trapler Ross video, so I can't really speak on that. But if it happens how she said it happened, then she's not wrong. See, there's a difference between engaging with the culture and being one of the tools in the culture's utility belt and providing something to the culture and being an authority in the culture. There's a fine line, right? For example, I'm not from New York. I don't live in New York. I don't have family members who's in New York. So I can't really speak on what is happening in New York unless I'm just some type of super political guy who has spent my entire life studying and researching the political climate in New York, right? So if Trapler Ross was speaking like an authority, I wouldn't agree with speaking as an authority. But if he was just speaking, I guess, giving his opinion and stating, this is my opinion, then cool. But yeah, disagreeing with Lauren when it comes to the political scene in New York is kind of crazy. But I'll have to see the video, man, because I don't think my guy Trapler Ross. I don't know, bro. Let me just wait until I watch the video.
Because he is jumping in to our political discourse on how our city should be policed or not. And he is saying that based on his fucking like anthropologist look at in the zoo. You know what I mean? That's how he sees, how he's looking at drill rappers in New York City, as though that's representative. And I think that's very different than just documenting it. It's even very different than like academics when he used to do Chirac and people felt like he was too comedic or taking too much light in this. He has gone another, like, to me, like a extra white man step of I'm not only observing these people, I'm not only inserting myself into their lives and their criminality and all these different things, and I'm like feeding it to the masses for the purposes of making arguments as to how these should be policed.
Yeah.
And that's
pushing
different.
the narrative.
I guess I'm struggling to see where the race component comes into this. This should be a conversation with proximity. So Trapler Ross is in the UK. So I feel like the argument should be, Trapler Ross, you're in the UK. You shouldn't really have an opinion, or go to extra step to give an opinion on how people should be policed in New York. But if we're talking about race, bro, there's white folks in the hood, Hispanics in the hood, Chinese in the hood, Asians in the hood. And what are we saying that those people is voyeuristic for essentially living out their culture since they lived in proximity to quote unquote blacks, and at some point, right, the melting pot happened, and their culture is black culture, right? Or urban culture, I should say. So I don't feel like the argument should be Trapler Ross, you're white, and it don't matter where you live or where you're from or how in proximity you are to these people, you can't speak on it. Because if Trapler Ross was living in proximity, then he'll be able to speak on it. Like here, for example, right? They brought up ACK. Yo, for example, academics speaking on Chicago to me ain't no different than Trapler Ross speaking on New York. So if you have a problem with what Trapler Ross is currently doing, you should also have a problem with the war in Chirac. Now, from my perspective, I don't have a problem with either. Right? I feel like academics at the time provided something that was necessary. Right? Without academics, we wouldn't have any insight into what's currently going on in Chicago. Without academics, we wouldn't know none of the people we currently know. Without academics, there probably wouldn't be a Lil Durk or a Lil Reese at this particular moment. So I do feel like academics was a necessary tool on hip hop's utility belt, just like I feel like Trapler Ross currently is.
Shout out to Lil Bill, and Lil Bill was talking about how people try to make a distinction between, people like Trapler Ross and Buckingham, whoever, whatever, right? And it's like, oh, at least Buckingham guy goes into these hoods or interviews them. Like I even saw he was in that Luesta Jeff video I watched today because he did an interview with one of these guys and there ended up being a shooting right after and like his cameraman got shot, right? And so something like that might make people feel like, oh, this person has like more of a, could speak to it. But I'm like, no, they like your level of proximity and knowing these people or talking to them or like being nosy and like learning things you think about their life does not in any way amount to real information, like the ability to draw conclusions or insights as to what is or what isn't. That's what seems nuts to me. It's like, oh, because I listen to this music and I talk to these and I know that there's a killing on this corner and these don't like each other. Now I have I'm a primary source. You know what I mean? Like I can discuss this.
100%.
Yeah.
No, but if you have information, I guess nobody else does, don't that make you a primary source? So in terms of, let's say, academics and war in Chirac, now maybe that's a bad example because even Ak admitted that he was getting his information off of Reddit and the internet. But let's just say, just for argument's sake, bro, that academics was one of the only people actually doing the research, talking to people in those communities, having conversations with them, getting all the stories from different sources, then wouldn't academics be the primary source? Then wouldn't academics be able to speak on what's going on in those communities more than any one of us? Now, let's just say academics wasn't a black man from Jamaica. Let's say academics was white. Would that take away from the fact that he has knowledge, from the fact that he knows what's going on, from the fact that he's the primary source? Would that take away? I don't think so. You feel me? And that's my only problem with this, man. But yo, I actually thoroughly enjoy watching O'Laurin videos. I watch Olay and Friends probably every episode. Yeah, man. Listen, so a shout out to them, man. But I do disagree with this particular conversation. Hey, listen, hopefully, maybe, all right. One day I'm in a battlefield, man. You feel me? Maybe one day I'm on Olay and Friends. You feel me? Going back and forth, but I enjoy the content, man. Y'all let me know in the comment section, and please be civil, all right? Please don't start calling me all type of cookies, all right? Let me know in the comment section, do you agree with my particular view or do you agree with Olay and Friends, okay? Let me know, man. And if you're still watching, click on this video here somewhere on my screen, man. It's a dope video, right? So Aaron and Plumber met a YN who don't care about life at all, and they almost like killed each other. Click on this video right here to find out what I'm talking about. Out of here, folks. Peace.